When growing up, football is different, for if it's wearing your favourite player on the back of your shirt and not understanding when your heroes leave. But as history moves on, when you grow up, you still remember those days as a young football fan. Even if your team was not very successful, it's that moment where you could go and watch your team every week and be happy you're a part of something. Often these memories boil down to a streets won't forget player, in which maybe the outer world hadn't really showed interest in, but you loved them for your team and they were amazing. Now I'm going to tell you about a streets won't forget player who went through the most horrendous injury that Arsene Wenger has ever seen and came back and was a hero at many clubs, and his name is Santi Cazorla. Now Santi Cazorla grew up in Spain and played for local club Real Oviedo, but because of financial crisis he actually moved to Villarreal 6 months before turning 18, and he progressed through the youth sides very quickly, making his debut for the reserve side in 2003 and made his senior debut for Villarreal's main team in the UEFA Intertoto Cup in 2004, which they won. He was a big part of Villarreal's campaign in 2005, and at the age of 21 helped them get to the Champions League semi-final, but eventually was cut off at the end of the season and was signed by Recreato, just got promoted to the top division. Now he helped them finish 8th and won Spain's Player of the Year according to Don Balón, which is a Spanish weekly sports magazine. This prompted Villarreal to use their buyback clause for €1.2 million to bring him back straight away. This is where his career really took off, as in the next 4 years he played a lot of games for Villarreal, playing up to 127 league games. In 2008 as well, he famously rejected Real Madrid, saying it is possible to say no to them, and this is where he started getting called up for the Spain national team for the first time. And in 2009, despite having a career high 8 goals in the league, he actually picked up his first big injury to his right fibula after suffering a challenge from 2 opponents. He missed several games, but this would not be his worst injury in his career. This broken fibula also meant he missed the Champions League quarter-final game against Arsenal home and away, not being able to play, and Villarreal got knocked out. And this was the start of the injury problems for Cazorla. Next season, 2009-2010, he missed a lot of games with a abductor injury and weren't in the squad for over half the season. Despite being a very talented player when he played, still being 2-footed and very agile on the ball, the injuries meant that Santi Cazorla's time was running out. These injuries also meant he missed the 2010 World Cup for Spain, in which they obviously went and won it, so that's a trophy missed out for him. But he did return to full fitness the following season and have a very good year for Villarreal, playing a lot deeper and scoring 5 times, helping them finish 4th and qualifying for the Champions League. Now in 2011, Santi Cazorla decided to leave everything at Villarreal and move to Malaga, because despite being a worse team than Villarreal, it was in his home county of Andalusia, so he wanted to go back and see his family, so he moved for €21 million in July 26. And things really developed for Cazorla in Malaga, where he really developed his free kick tactics, scoring a brilliant one on his debut in a 2-1 loss to Seville, and also scoring a brilliant equaliser against Real Madrid to draw 1-1. He miraculously in one season helped Malaga get 4th and get a Champions League space, beating his old team Villarreal. He also scored a career high of 9 league goals that season, which was the second most in his team behind Sonner and Rondon. However, things with Malaga didn't last, as their new Qatari owners had spent £80 million to bring in people like Santi Cazorla the year before, but despite them getting top 4, the owners had lost interest and he wasn't getting the required TV deals that they wanted, and they owed a lot of money to the tax authorities and different teams in the country of Spain. This meant Malaga needed to offload some of their star players to make ends meet, so Santi Cazorla and Monreal was sold to Arsenal for a lot less money than they bought him for, with Santi Cazorla going for 10 mil to Arsenal after they just spent 18 in them the year before. With him signing in 2012, Arsenal were going through a bit of a rough period, hadn't won a trophy since 2005, 7 years before he joined. With the fee not being a substantial amount and Arsenal going for a rebuild, also bringing in Lucas Podolski and Olivier Giroud that year, no one really expected Arsenal to do much, so outside of Arsenal there was not much expectation that Cazorla was going to be very good. However, Cazorla had a season to remember and everyone was shocked. On his debut he won the Man of the Match award against Sunderland in a brilliant performance, and he really came into his own in Arsenal's game against Anfield, where they won 2-0 with him scoring his first goal for the club. And despite being excellent all season, there was definitely a shroud of controversy around him, as in a game against West Brom and Albion it appeared that he was tripped by Stephen Reed, which he converted the penalty that was then given. Television replays however showed that he had no contact between Reed and Cazorla. This led to Wenger issuing an apology for Cazorla being awarded a penalty and suggested the Spaniard could face disciplinary action for going to ground too easily, and this was the harsh reality of the English Premier League at the time. However, Cazorla did not let this deter him, and for the rest of the season he played every game for Arsenal in the league, getting up 38 league games and helping Arsenal come 4th in the league with a 4-1 win against Wigan on the final day. He got 12 goals and 12 assists in the Premier League and was named Arsenal's Player of the Season for 2012-2013, with Wenger saying he was a bit of an underrated player as he was not picked in the PFA Team of the Year. Now, going into the 2013-2014 season, people knew the quality that Cazorla had. He actually didn't start the first few games, as he was introduced later through the Confederations Cup, which he played for Spain in the summer. In September, he also picked up his first ankle issues, picking up an ankle injury and being left out of action for the rest of the month. This wouldn't be the last time he has the same injury. While Cazorla's second season weren't as good as his first, he still had decent performances. In January, he was amazing and was really good against Tottenham and Fulham in wins. However, the league campaign did not really matter for Arsenal, as they had reached the FA Cup quarter-finals in 2014 and they hadn't won a trophy in 9 years at this point. In the quarter-finals, Arsenal drew Everton at the Emirates on the 8th of March. Now, Arsenal won comfortably, winning 4-1 with a certain manager scoring. This led Arsenal to their first Wembley appearance since they'd been shocked by Birmingham a few years ago in the Carabao Cup final, called the Carling Cup at the time. With Manchester City being shocked by Wigan at home in the quarter-finals, the only teams left in the tournament were Hull City, Sheffield United and Wigan Athletic, all teams very much inferior to Arsenal at the time, so there was a really big chance for Arsenal to win the tournament. Arsenal played holders Wigan Athletic in the semi-final. Now, Wigan actually got relegated to the Championship but was still the FA Cup winners, so did really well to get this far and were also played in the Europa League this year. Santi Cazorla played in Cam in this game and had a really good performance, with Yaya Sanogo starting up front for Arsenal. Despite Arsenal going down from a penalty in the second half to Wigan, defender Per Mertesacker scored a late equaliser and then they went to penalties, where Santi Cazorla scored the winning penalty to make Arsenal go to the final, winning 4-2. Now, with Arsenal wrapping up 4th place yet again and getting Champions League football, all eyes went to the FA Cup final to end the 9-year trophyless streak. At this point, Santi Cazorla had cemented himself as a pretty reliable player for Arsenal, playing nearly every game when he could. And in the final, he actually started on the right wing, moving aside for Ozil to play in attacker midfield. Despite the expectation that it was going to be an easy win, it was definitely not, with Hull City scoring twice in the first 8 minutes to go 2-0 up at Wembley. With it looking like same old Arsenal and it looked like the run was not going to continue, all heads dropped and Arsenal were not playing very well in the start of the game. Arsenal needed someone to step up. With Lucas Podolski, Olivier Giroud and Mesut Ozil not really doing it, Arsenal had one man who turned up when they needed to. Throughout his career, Santi Cazorla developed himself as a really good free kick taker, having his own special technique, being two-footed, being able to take on either side. And he used this at the perfect moment. With Arsenal getting a free kick on the right side of the pitch, Santi Cazorla stepped up and took a brilliant free kick and put a top corner, in which Hull could do nothing about it. Not only was it a sensational goal out of nothing, it also lifted Arsenal to come back and win the FA Cup, ending their trophy drought for 9 years. And this was a lot down to Santi Cazorla, lifting the team when he needed to, showing a bit of quality and helping Arsenal fans finally win a trophy after all that time. And at that point, even though Arsenal were not very good for over a decade at this point, Santi Cazorla became a legend and a player that everyone will remember. His technique, his ability and his drive to bring the team forward and always put the team first over him, something admired by everyone, and he was such a lovable guy. And what made it even better is a year later, he also helped Arsenal win another FA Cup, going back to back, having a man-of-match performance in the final, where he started a lot deeper in defensive midfield. He helped Arsenal win 4-0 against Aston Villa and brought 2 trophies to the club where they hadn't won in a decade. Despite him already being a cult hero for Arsenal, he tried to continue but really struggled from this point after. In 2015-16, he was 31 and he only played 15 league games, picking up a knee injury against Norwich and not really playing much after that. And in 2016-17, he picked up one of the worst injuries that Wenger had ever seen. In a Champions League game in 2016 in October against Ludogorets, he suffered an Achilles tendon injury and had to come off injured. Now, at the start, he entered rehab to try and sort out his injury, seeming like it was a normal problem, but standard rehabilitation did not prove effective, and in December it was confirmed that he required surgery. He eventually had to endure 8 operations on the problem. It was because the ankle had been damaged for years playing football when he got it before and had never really sorted it. And because it weren't sorted, it actually contacted gangrene, which is an infection that actually eats part of the tendon. This is caused by the lack of blood supply to the chosen area and usually causes a lot of black numbness, swelling and pain, and the skin to break down. Because it was actually very infected, it had been feared that he could be unable to walk again or could even lose the affected leg, definitely stopping him playing football. The condition required antibiotic treatment and a skin graft, where the skin eventually was sourced from Cazorla's left arm, where he had his tattoo of his daughter's name present. With this being such a long procedure and such a bad injury, it actually took so long for it to recover, and eventually he was released from his Arsenal contract because he hadn't played a game in 2 years. It was still thought that he would never play football again or never be able to. But after 636 days, he finally played his first game as he rejoined his old club Villarreal and played against Hercules in a friendly, coming on to a standing ovation. And Cazorla cemented himself as a proper legend of the game with brilliant performance as he returned. A player they never thought would play football again came back and was instantly insane, and his last season for Villarreal got 11 goals and 9 assists in the league. He also was the highest scoring midfielder in Villarreal's history, beating Riquelme to the title. And Cazorla is very grateful that he's even allowed to play football after his horrendous injury. After he came back, he actually got recalled for Spain and played a few games for them before retiring from international duty, and he still plays professional football now for his old team Real Oviedo in the second tier of Spanish football. Despite being pushed back so much in his career, he never let that stop him from fulfilling his dream, and he never stopped that from showing his ability at so many different clubs. A player that definitely missed too many games because of injury still powered through and had a very, very good career. With his unique dribbling ability, his brilliant 2-foot awareness and his brilliant free kicks, he became one of the best technical players to ever play for Arsenal and will definitely have a place in the club forever. And he gave people hope when there was nothing to be hopeful of. If you like this video, please watch my video about who Arsenal should sign in January, and give it a like and subscribe if you want more. Thanks for watching.